I'm Kunal Chandiramani, the entrepreneur in residence for the Institute for Innovation and Entrepreneurship at CSULB. And we have someone really cool on the podcast. Michael co-founded Studio OneEleven, built one of the most prestigious architecture firms in California, and is one really inspiring human being. Thanks for being here.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the kind words. It's an honor to be here.
So, Michael, you've built a business that's conventionally stays small into something that's large but still small and creative at heart. Like, what's your journey been like?
Oh boy. Well, when I actually started here, and Alan Pullman, who also founded this business, he actually had it running and was trying for a few years to have me come here, and I just wasn't all that convinced yet about it being the right place. And how we ended up working together through a third client, I realized that he shared so many beliefs that I shared about cities. And we're a group of architects, landscape architects, and urban designers really dedicated to restoring cities. And I saw firsthand as we were working together on these projects that he shared those beliefs. And I thought, this is a guy that we need to build something together with. And I came to Long Beach. We worked in an ivory tower on the 22nd and 23rd floor at Pine and Ocean, and I learned that our rent was going to come due, and I just felt like that tower did not reflect our values and our beliefs. And you can say a lot of things about who you are, and you can practice those things, but if your environment doesn't reflect it, I'm not sure how consistent you are in your belief structure. And it was really interesting. As I was digging into it, I learned that the two CEOs at the time were the only people that wanted to be in this tower because they had a big corner office with a great view. And I realized our clients didn't like it. They knew we were about community, and they said, "Why are you in this tall tower? Why aren't you somewhere in the community?" And some of our other clients were more value-based, and they said, you're paying a lot of rent, and others were complaining about just how long it took to park the car and get up the elevator into the tower. And so we realized over time, with all these different brands in our company, that there was not one brand that was benefiting from being in this tower. So I was assigned to find a new place and to help kind of lead the design for the space. And so that's how it all started with this company. And so Studio OneEleven just happened to take the lead on working on this building, and the rest of the firm obviously provided input and worked together, but we all ended up coming here together.
I love that. So talk about firstly finding a co-founder. It just saying hard is an understatement.
Yes, it is.
Because it's like a marriage, but you need to work together, and you need to unlike a marriage, the growth is numbers, and you can really see it on a balance sheet. How is that? How is the idea of finding a co-founder and then still building together compared to so many startups just end to separate faster than most divorces?
Well, first of all, when you have a partner. There are times when you spend more time with them than your own spouse, because you've got to keep this business growing and going, and you want to you have lives that you have to keep employed, and so there are times when we are just here 18 hours a day to just to try to keep everything stable. And I think this idea of us working together first separately with a common client was really a good experiment, because we got to see truly what our priorities were, what our beliefs were, and obviously we have to make a living, and we want to make money and support our staff and pay them well, but there's so much more to it for us. We want to do good. We want to serve our clients, but we also want to create at the same time community benefits. We want our projects to touch more than just the developer or the client and us, but the community that it sits in. And so, as you mentioned, data is really good on tracking financials, and there's other types of data we collect too. You know, do we win awards? Do we win accolades from our peers? Do we get testimonials from our clients that they're happy? Do we get testimonials from the community? And all those collectively is what we use to gauge if we think we're being successful or not.
Just in this space, I've seen so much community, and like, just in conversing with you, the community seems like such a core part of you. Like, how do you see community and business as two lines?
Well, like you said, about our space community is very important here, as well as creating a place that supports innovation and collaboration. And for us, if we're bound to other humans in some way, shape, or form, we think we're better. We think if we understand our community, we can do better work. If we work together internally in our office as a community and we understand each other's strengths and weaknesses and aspirations, that our work, we can put together teams that help support each other and complement each other to create better work.
But what about like when it's building up the company after you and your co-founder? How do you like build that sense of community, just feeling connected, not just the community at work, but the community, like how connected you are in the city, and just being helpful into like the third person?
Wow. Well, we practice what we preach. We don't just say it. 1% of our staff time goes for free to help the community. So if there's a nonprofit that's never had a chance to work with an architect or a landscape architect or an urbanist, we provide 1% of our time to help some of these community groups to help them have either a better building or a place or a vision that they can grow from. And I think, again, it's not always about the numbers, it's about this idea of helping others and getting smarter for it. And our work cross-pollinates, like we do a lot of housing, and we are very passionate about affordable housing and providing housing for folks that don't have housing or are in great need of housing. But at the same time, we also do market rate housing. And what we learn in market rate, we bring to the affordable, we do housing for the homeless. All these things, we take all this knowledge that we build over time and mix it together. And I think folks that just do one type of thing can get stuck in these rails and can get just stuck in one way of doing things. And there's so many solutions to a problem, and we love to come up with many ideas in the conceptual phase and really dissect them and then pick one that works best for that client. And I think our work reflects very diverse projects that are either client-inspired and people-based and community-based. So I could talk about specific examples, but like in Signal Hill, the community was very interested in their heritage, so our buildings are inspired by these old barns and manufacturing buildings. And you might go to Santa Ana and see a project there that's inspired by the arts corridor that's evolving on the street. So we really want to listen to the community, what's important to them, and also understand the history that's there, and either support it, or sometimes we rebel against it, but we want to make these as informed decisions.
But that's beautiful, because it's like you're building above a foundation. You're not breaking the foundation, removing it out, and building a fresh new thing.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because some of the best buildings we've done are not the original buildings we designed. We are big proponents of adaptive reuse, where we save buildings. Like this building was originally a department store for Nordstrom. They left, and the client was going to bring in a Dollar Tree, and we said, well, maybe we could do something that would bring more energy and a different buzz here. And they loved the idea, and so we adaptively reused this building into an office. But we've converted churches to event centers. We've converted retail into housing, office into housing. We've converted retail into office. I think any combination that you can think of, we've probably done it. And I think what's so important about that, to your point, is preserving some history, even though it may have a new use, saving the history, even if it gets reinterpreted a bit, but having these layers of time within a project is, to me, so much more interesting than tearing it down and creating my own, through my ego, my own, what I think is the right thing. I think it's more interesting to put my ego aside and to work with what's there. And so I think we've probably completed easily over 24 adaptive reuse projects.
What's your favorite one? Outside of this.
That is a good one. Probably one of the first. It's called 4th and Linden, and this is a project that Alan and I, Alan, my business partner, we actually were financially involved in it. We acted as developer with 2 other community members, and we were so tired of the city of Long Beach coming in and tearing down beautiful old buildings and then selling it to a developer for $1. And so they'd spend all this money buying this building, tearing it down, selling it for $1, and it usually was from a developer from outside the city who put something in that we thought was rather placeless. It did not reflect the community or the history of the city. And we were just so frustrated by it. We bought these 3 buildings, and we said, we can do better. And we restored the buildings. They were at that point a warehouses, but originally one was a furniture store, and another one was a retail store. We converted them into creative offices, and we saved all the original structure. We exposed it, we celebrated it, and we sold them off, and just had a really great time. And the city all of a sudden got it, and they said, we'll work with you, we'll put in street lights, we'll plant street trees, and we'll help make this a really wonderful place. And so sometimes you have to just do it yourself. Sometimes you can talk till you're blue in the face to the city about certain things, but other times you just have to do it and show them. And I think that was one of both of our proudest moments, as younger entrepreneurs and designers and creative force trying to change the trajectory of how development happens in downtown.
So you mentioned younger entrepreneurs.
Yes.
Firstly, I think being an entrepreneur, you have to be young all the time, given how fast
you do.
But say compared to being younger then and more younger now, how differently do you look at business?
Well, I love learning. I'm a constant learner. I love new ideas. And I think as soon as you start to go into a certain formulaic approach to things, then you're in trouble. You've got to always look at the world, and I love to travel. I love to see how other people in the world solve problems and deal with issues. And I know that we spoke earlier about India, which was such a wonderful experience for me to work there, and then my family's all from Europe, and going to Germany and seeing how things are done there has just, I think, taken my mind and allowed me to realize that the way things are done here in the United States isn't always the best way to do things, and that you have to question things constantly. And then once you think you have it down, then some disruption happens, like COVID or what have you, and all rules are off again, right? And you have to look at things again. And this office had to evolve after COVID. We have folks here that didn't want to come in every day, and so there wasn't the buzz that was here before, and so we put everybody down on the ground level. If you were here 3 days a week, you got your own desk. If you were here less than that, you would have to hotel, and we leased out the whole mezzanine to other creative firms, and that brought back that energy and life because we had more bodies in here again like we did before. So things are changing, and you have to adapt to them to keep maybe some of those values that you want. And for me, the value of just that excitement of innovation and collaboration and having that here is very important. If our staff isn't always here, we'll have other creatives here, such as yourself, to just bring that new perspective to the office.
So which one's your desk?
I am right down there.
Yeah, that's a cool desk. I think that's the coolest part. Every time I come here, I see you right there, feeling the energy, just being a part of this beautiful thing that you built. And just it's just so cool because just the sharing of creativity it really spreads.
Yeah. And I think as people work here over time, they pick up that energy, and it's really a great opportunity for hiring and retaining people as well. We have gotten some really great, bright people, and the space is part of it. Obviously our work, our body of work is really important, but having a space that reflects that body of work is really, really important to us.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So talking more about like the building a creative business, how is that idea for most creatives? What they build, like it's the age-old adage that killing your babies for a poet or for a writer if you need to cut out content. How, and like as a creative, you really love what you've built, and then moving to a business, you have to kind of look at what the market loves as well. How is building a business as a creative and a creative business?
You have, as I mentioned earlier, disruption is always around the corner, and you have to keep evolving. And this company has evolved over time and continues to do so. When we were first starting, housing was part of our work, but retail was a lot of our work. And now it's the complete opposite. There's not as much retail happening, but a great demand for housing. I love new ideas and learning, and with the adaptive reuse, I started to get into office to housing conversions, where you take an office building now that's empty, because we have in Southern California and in the US so many empty office towers. And instead of tearing them down and starting from scratch, what can we do with these buildings? And we also have a housing shortage. And so a lot of these buildings are great candidates to convert into housing. And we finished one down the street here on 200 Ocean. It's getting the highest rents per square foot in the city and is doing really well. So well that the developer that completed that project has bought another office building down the street, a 14-story tower. Doing the same thing there. So I think understanding where the market is and then trying to respond in a creative way to solving those problems and opportunities keeps us at the forefront.
That's beautiful. So, like when you were less young entrepreneurs, or just learning to get even younger and even faster, in that phase when you were building, how was that first phase of expanding your creativity and finding customers and convincing them about, okay, we want to build this out this way?
You have to find strategic partners. So we work with many contractors, and some of them shared our belief about adaptive reuse, that yes, it's cheaper. Yes, you create more interesting spaces than building new conventional housing. And we found clients that maybe hadn't done it yet, but were very intrigued. So I think this idea of finding strategic partners, be it clients, contractors, our consultants, our engineers that help work with us on these buildings, they all have to believe in this, because if they don't, then you're fighting with yourself. So it's very important to do as much research as you can, but then at some point you've just got to dive in and hope for the best. And I think entrepreneurs have to be very confident, positive, almost overly positive, because if you just focus on the risks, you don't do anything. And you have to focus on the opportunities and feel like you have enough confidence, and it's got to be a calculated risk that you can pull it off. So far, we've been able to do that, so and continue to grow at the same time.
So, talk about the creative process. Like, where do you find how do you look at creative time? Or like, is it all creative time, and when you do like the accounting?
Oh, I wish there was more creative time. The creative time is actually not that much. A lot of it is about mentoring and getting work, and then making sure the work is being done properly. But there's always that, on every project, that first big idea. What is that big idea that's going to bring not only value for the client, but as the community, and and there's lots of criteria that we can do. Is this looking at technology in a new way? Is this looking at a layout in the building that might work better for the people that live in there compared to what's conventionally done. And so when you say creativity, gosh, sometimes I have my best ideas in the shower because nobody's bothering me. I'm by myself, and my mind is just completely relaxed and open, and these ideas come. But at the same time, creativity is every day, walking around at desks, seeing what people are doing, questioning it, supporting those ideas, or throwing out like, well, maybe this is a good start, but what if we did this? And it's definitely not just coming from my head, it is coming from everybody's passion. And I think people that maybe aren't as experienced, that they feel comfortable enough to share their ideas. And it's like mining, right? You've got to mine all these ideas. And many times they're not my idea. I may be the conductor of the symphony, and I might say, that's the best idea, but it may not be my idea. In fact, many times it isn't, and that's good, because then we know we are looking at things from many perspectives.
I think like the most heated debates I've found are between two creatives. How do you manage to let everybody's ideas come out in a big work environment with so many creatives at it?
Well, we all have to be rowing in the same direction. We all have to have a similar belief system. So there are many ideas that come out, and if you look at them quickly, you realize these don't really help the community, or they may not even help the client all that much. And so those get discarded quickly. And I think, all of us here do believe in cities. We do have faith in our downtowns and our communities. And so we all kind of have that same foundation of beliefs. So as these ideas come out, they tend to be based on some type of criteria that supports that belief system. So there is a natural way of editing that has to be done, because otherwise, someone says, I want it red, and we want it blue, and I want it green. Well,
which one do you do?
Yeah. Well, depends on the situation, but you have to look at the criteria for that project. And it's pretty amazing that generally 90% of the time everybody, again, it may not be their idea, but everyone says that's the best idea. And even with my partner Alan, we sometimes don't look at each other's work for quite a while, and I see it and I say, gosh, that's really a great solution. That's how I would have done it. And it's working with like-minded people. This is the simplistic solution.
Like-minded people, yeah.
And at the same time, they can't also just be robots that just want to do what you think is right. They need to challenge and question, again, with the same assumptions and beliefs about how we feel about cities.
That's very well said, because I think so many people, especially like when they're joining a company, they feel like they just need to, like whoever's above them, they're like they're God. They're just second to God, and everything they say has to be a yes. And oftentimes, especially when it's a smart person, they're hired to not say yes.
Right. We try to dispel that approach right away. We want to hear everybody's ideas. It doesn't mean your idea will be accepted, but we want to hear it. And I have to say, there are people coming fresh out of school that have better way to do graphics, better way, they understand programs way better than I do. And I want to hear that. I want to see, well, what if we go this new route, what are the outcomes? Let's look at this. And we'll change sometimes graphic standards because of somebody that just came out of college and had a really great idea. So the ideas come from the top, they come down, they come from the bottom, they come from in between, and again, you need folks to help edit them and conduct them in such a manner that it all makes sense. But man, you want to have those ideas coming from every corner.
And yeah, it's a symphony. That's like the best way to say it. It's like the flute is very, very different than the piano, but they can play together and sound even better.
Yes, absolutely. And the pianist might say, "Hey, I want to change this note here." We need to give that a shot and see if it makes for better music.
That's very well said. Looking at a different angle, so say going from a small, like I think I spoke a lot, like asked you a lot of things around building a creative business larger, but like what about like very much in that area when you were scaling it up, like if now you had to scale another creative business, what are things you would keep in mind as pointers, things you might have done and they were perfect, or things you might have not done?
Oh boy, we've been pretty lucky. We've always known, or we've been lucky enough to know where the market's going almost before it goes to help be that leader. We always, whatever we go into, we want to at some point become the leader or one of the leaders or voices, so that, and another way of tracking that from a data perspective is, does the press call us for our opinion? Because then we know that they view us as experts. But boy, advice for something new. Well, I'll give you an example. We're very interested in pursuing collegiate work with colleges, and we won't be able to go in on day one and do a lab, but we do a lot of housing, and there's a lot of student housing that needs to be done on colleges, and we are perhaps maybe the only firm in the U.S. that has done modular housing of shipping containers, wood framing, and metal stud framing. And so as these colleges are looking for more affordable ways to build student housing, we see ourselves with this expertise in modular housing as a way to get into that market. So we like to take our expertise in one market and then slide it into another market, and not necessarily start from scratch, but share that expertise in a new area, so in a new field. Does that make sense?
That's beautiful, because I love that. It's also like, even when you move from one role to another, just not like people think of it as baggage, but sometimes it's it is the advantage. Like when you move from tech to finance, or finance to tech, you have this huge advantage. It's not baggage.
Right, exactly. Right. It's knowing what to take with you and what baggage to leave behind. But absolutely.
But I think that's such a hard balance. I just take all of it and then decide, okay. And then just being open to being corrected, I guess.
Well, and it's never a perfectly linear process. I mean, there are highs and then there are lows, but hopefully over time you're continuing to elevate and get better and to get more work.
For someone like right now, thinking, probably like a first-time founder, thinking about a creative idea, not too aware of all the accounting that they're gonna have to do and all the managing that they're gonna have to do eventually, how would you, and like even beyond, like even at 3 people, the amount of managing they'd have to do, how do you, what would be your input for them?
I'd say keep your eye on the long-term prize and have confidence. I'd say have integrity, and also have your team on board. Have your team understand what the goals are. Why we're working today for this longer-term win or approach. But I think all the talent in the world is wonderful, but you have to have perseverance, confidence, integrity. This company couldn't be where it is if I couldn't trust my partners or the team members here. It's really important, and you have to live that model to serve as a role model for everyone else. And there are times when if something isn't going well, we need to get to the bottom of it and figure it out.
So like especially like, I know since you moved from like a creative role to having a building on the side to being a full-time business plus creative role. Mm-hmm. How different was a creative role versus a business plus creative role as an entrepreneur?
They do feed each other in some ways. When you're strictly more creative, sometimes budgets, the trying to resolve budgets or work through budgets, as a creative designer, you can't get to the end game as fast as if you have some of this business knowledge as well, because now you can convince others that this creative solution will not only be the right solution for the client and the community, but there's a financial value as well. So it's another way of parsing those ideas down and picking the right one to move forward.
So you mentioned the almost like a Venn diagram, the common. What were the center for you, the takeaways you could take from the creative process into the business process and business process to the creative process?
Well, I think some level of understanding how the world works and finances and financial restrictions, you have to understand those to be able to work through them and get what you want to do. You know, when I hit a wall, I don't just give up and start over or walk back. I try to get around that wall to keep moving, and I think that's where the perseverance has to come in. And you know, there are larger issues. You know, I mentioned modular housing. We started to pursue that directly because affordable housing is so expensive to build in California. It costs almost twice as much to build as luxury housing, and there's a lot of reasons why that is so. But we went into modular housing to show the state of California and Los Angeles and affordable housing folks that there are cheaper ways to build housing, and so far we've been successful at that. So it's seeing a problem out there, understanding the financial implications and why is it so expensive to build that, and how can we do it quicker, and then realizing, well, there's this modular piece over here, why don't we try that? And again, finding your strategic supporters, like a contractor that has worked in that realm, to say, yeah, we can do that, and having a client that's on board, and then finding, which is the hardest many times, the financial institutions to support that as well. And in fact, our first modular project, the mayor of Los Angeles at the time had HHH funding and gave us some additional fundings so that we could work out those bugs in the first project and get that built successfully.
I love that. I think like getting around walls is pretty much the definition of creativity.
Yes, yes.
It's beautiful.
If you think you have a good idea, well, you have to make sure it's a good idea. But if your partners and your team feels like this is worth pursuing, then you've got to find the best around you and work together to overcome them and to share that and to hopefully succeed at it.
Also, not to probably get into that echo chamber where you think it's a good idea.
Yes.
Like I was just like, there's this one, like you might have an incredible idea that's amazing and that's going to change everything for a small tiny part of San Francisco.
Yes.
But that's it.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of ideas.
It's all, yeah.
So
it's a lot about sometimes publicly speaking and having people throw darts at your ideas and seeing how well you can defend them and to your point, seeing how big is the market, how interested is the market, because some ideas, boy, that we had many years ago didn't take off, and now we're seeing the state of California now looking at some of these things, and I'm saying to myself, gosh, we talked about that 20 years ago, but so timing's also very important.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for doing this. This was such an honor.
Oh, well, thank you. It's great just to talk about what we do.